Hi everybody, welcome back to Boston. My name is Dave Vellante. We're here at theCUBE. We have a special guest coming in. We are almost wrapped up with our day here at IBM Think 2025. Sanjeev Mohan is in the house. He is the principal at SanjMo and a member of the CUBE collective, friend of the CUBE. Sanjeev, great to see you.
Likewise.
Thanks for making some time. We always love to sit down with you. You're deep into data. You have a great background, former Gartner analyst. You have your own firm now. You're well loved, super respected, so thank you for spending some time with us. I want to start with IBM strategy. You know, one of the things that I often say about Oracle is they've got a highly differentiated strategy. Say what you love them or hate them, but Oracle with its Exadata, its red stack, it's highly differentiated. IBM seems to be pursuing a different path in terms of its differentiation, very open, heavy focus on integration and data. Obviously it's got its legacy businesses and it's what they call foundational or enduring businesses. What's your take? Is IBM in your mind as an analyst executing on a differentiated strategy?
I think IBM has a uniquely differentiated strategy. Oracle is amazing. We love Oracle and what it's doing. Now that Oracle is in every hyperscaler, Azure, AWS and GCP now. So, but they are still a database company. So they're differentiated at that level. In fact, the reason they are in other hyperscalers is because other hyperscalers are better BI story, better ML story, to be honest. IBM is differentiated in the fact that it has enterprise maturity that very few other vendors have. And so with its mainframe, by the way, people don't even realize that even IMS and KICS from way back are still alive and kicking.
So it's COBOL.
And COBOL. 70% of world's transactions actually go through an IBM mainframe. So if you look at mainframe, and everything that they have in the rest of the stack, it's differentiated. If you look at like Google, for instance, Google Cloud is also differentiated because they have TPUs all the way up. So they're vertically integrated. IBM is not that vertically integrated. They rely on chips from other companies, although they have Telum 2 and Spire, we learned about.
Yeah, they design some of their own silicon,
yes. But their differentiation comes from the fact that with Red Hat, they are deep into hybrid on-prem and cloud. Most hyperscalers, their revenue is compute. They're driving compute, like Snowflake is encouraged to run on AWS at the cost of Redshift because it drives compute. IBM is not in the same game because IBM has IBM Cloud, but it's not really their center of focus. They can run very well on AWS. They are driving this application story now with AI agents, with the IBM consulting, so they're coming from top down. And data being spread across hybrid and cloud and on mainframe, it gives them the differentiation.
Well, it's interesting, I just wrote a report I did my cloud summary. Amazon, as you saw, AWS specifically, has 39% operating margins. Not talking about gross margin, talking about operating margin.
Wow.
And that's tremendous.
Right.
I mean, that's software company level. I mean, even the Oracles and the Microsofts of the world, they're in the low 40% range. Broadcom and NVIDIA have higher ones, but that's because they got crazy pricing these days. Broadcom has just an amazing business, but 39% operating margin for what is essentially a hardware company, to your point, that sells compute. Now, I will say this, that we published a while back that less than 50% of AWS's revenue is coming from compute. I don't know if you know that or believe that. Well, it's less than half, but it's still almost half. So that's a huge chunk. And so storage is also a decent sized piece, let's call it 10 to 15%. And so I think from Amazon's perspective, they would like a higher contribution from data and the data tooling, the AI work that they're doing, and further up the stack with Q and things like Connect. But they have a long way to go. I mean, probably what, 2% at best, maybe 1% of their business comes from SaaS, whereas Microsoft, for its cloud, it's probably 70% of its business, and I think Google's about 50-50. Google's operating margins, Google Cloud, we don't know about GCP, about 17, almost 18%. So big divergence there. Microsoft is probably in the 40% range. But to your point, IBM doesn't care about any of that infrastructure. I mean, they'll sell Z,
Yep.
You know, they'll sell some power, legacy power, but it's really, okay, so where is their value add? Where are they going to make money? Obviously in software.
Yeah, exactly. And their software, now that Linux is a first-class citizen on mainframe, they can take MongoDB, for instance.
Yeah.
And they can just take that MongoDB, no change, and put it on, and run that software business on mainframe, and then through their data gate, they can go populate watsonx.data, which is a lakehouse, and do analytics on it. I mean, the potential is immense for mainframe and the rest of IBM software to grow the business.
Yeah, our colleagues are probably like, oh, Dave and Sanjeev talking about mainframe at IBM Think, but it's true.
It's true,
They've got an integrated, mainframe is the platform for vertical integrated, hardware and software.
Correct.
No question about it.
Right.
It never goes down. I mean, it really doesn't. I was talking to one of your former colleagues, a former Gartner analyst, database guy. I'm picturing him. Anyway, he said to me, we were at an event recently, and he said, even Exadata goes down sometimes. Mainframes never go down. I was kind of curious, because I always think of Oracle as very highly mission critical, but the mainframe is the most mission critical. I know banks that will buy the next Z sight unseen. Yep, just ship it. We don't need to test it. We just go. So it's legit. It's a highly differentiated business. And the one point I wanted to make and see if this resonates is, we always talk about bringing AI to the data on-prem, but there's a lot of do-it-yourself cobbling together necessary, doing your own integration. That's not necessary with the mainframe. They're doing that for you. Don Feinstein is the name. Couldn't remember.
I see.
Database guy.
Okay. Yes.
So you buy that? I mean, does that make sense to you? And here we are talking about mainframe, but.
Yeah, so there is a program in AWS, it's called Mainframe Modernization Program. I'm sure you've heard.
The mainframe, the migration off of.
It is actually migration. It's a euphemism for migration. So although IBM and AWS are friends, and but given the reality, AWS is actually trying to get customers away from mainframe. But that business is actually growing. So I think mainframes will stay.
I don't think Amazon's going to have much. They've never had much success with that, and I've never. I mean, the interesting thing is you can convert COBOL to Java.
Yeah.
Okay, but the mainframe experience, banks aren't going to just chuck their mainframe. Here's why. They make money.
Right.
And then they can do transactions faster, they make more money.
Right.
Even
if companies move from COBOL to Java, it still plays in IBM's camp, because IBM is heavily invested in COBOL and Java. Yeah. Funny thing is, IBM doesn't want to compete in Python, because they know that Databricks and all these other companies are going to be
race
much
to the
better.
bottom. Yeah.
Yes, so they want to stick to where the enterprises are, and that's COBOL and Java.
All right, let's get off mainframe. Okay. Let's get to data.
Yes.
The DataStax acquisition, they don't talk about it much here because they can't. Acquisitions are done. Yeah. I mean, I remember the early days of DataStax and Billy Bosworth and Cassandra. And I always liked it. I felt like DataStax never had the marketing engine and the go-to-market engine, but I always thought they had a great product. What's your take on DataStax? Why is IBM buying DataStax? Where does it fit into the portfolio, and what's the future?
So I was following Cassandra from its early days when it came out of Facebook. So I think the reason why it never really caught on was a self-inflicted wound by DataStax. DataStax had this idea that we are special, we don't want to play in the open source stuff, so they divorced themselves from Cassandra.
Yeah.
And that was not a good move. It was never really accepted by the public. In fact, every time you buy an iPhone, that iPhone transaction is in Apple, is actually going on Cassandra, not DataStax.
Yeah.
Uber is Cassandra.
They should have done a managed service the way that Databricks did with Spark. That was the smart move.
Correct. So then DataStax realized the folly, and they tried to come back, but it was already too late.
It was too late, right. So the market had moved.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, but so so IBM, first of all, they picked it up probably for a good price. I don't think the price was announced. But where does it fit into the IBM portfolio, and what's the future of that technology?
At this Think 25, we are learning that the big focus for IBM is in unstructured data. because they feel that structured data story is pretty much told.
They got that nailed.
Yeah, we nailed it. Let's now focus on unstructured data. There is a vector database that's embedded Milvus into their lakehouse. By the way, AWS SageMaker does not have a embedded vector database, it's at OpenSearch.
You know, we use Milvus in,
yes, correct.
in theCUBE AI.
Yes.
Is Milvus, which
right.
is an open source.
Correct. So
Chinese, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah.
Zilliz is a company, and yes, that is correct.
Huh.
Based in Bay Area, though, a lot of Chinese companies, by the way, are rebranding to becoming American companies.
It's like Israeli companies go, no, we're based in the Bay Area, but
there is a company that I know very well called PingCap. TiDB's database is becoming an American company, even the name is going to change to TiDB. Maybe, I shouldn't have said that.
Good, bring that technology here. I love
yes,
it.
Correct. And okay, so my point is that the reason for buying DataStax is not Cassandra. Cassandra is open source. Why would, if they bought it for Cassandra, that would not be a very smart move because everyone can get to Cassandra. They bought it for Langflow. Langflow is the business developer friendly way to build your generative AI applications.
There's an AI play here is why they bought it.
It is mainly for AI. So there are three reasons why they bought it. One is AI, which is Langflow. Second is OpenSearch, which I just talked about, which is an amazing search engine. And then the third thing is for the JSON capabilities that Cassandra provides, in that order. So
and the fourth is it made financial sense. Jim Kavanaugh, I'm sure, did the IRR on it and said, oh, wow, we can pick this up for a relatively low denominator.
Right.
It wasn't like DataStax was a $60 billion market cap company.
Right.
So they're probably not paying a lot. And when you put it through the IBM go-to-market machine, they're going to get an R. I mean, IBM seems to have its M&A mojo back. You heard me yesterday in the Rob Thomas AMA. I really do think that IBM used to be great at M&A and it kind of lost its way, and now it's very good at M&A, it appears to be anyway.
So talk about M&A, by the way, DataStax acquisition came as a surprise to me, and the reason is because I had felt that there is a gap in IBM's portfolio, which is Postgres database, because AWS has Aurora, Google Cloud has Alloy, and Cloud SQL and Spanner, so they have three different Postgres, and Azure has its own, but IBM does not have a Postgres database, so I was expecting that they'll buy a Postgres database and not DataStax, so that was a surprise.
So explain that. So I thought, Aurora is MySQL, no?
No, Aurora is MySQL and Postgres.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so it is managed MySQL, managed Postgres.
Oh, okay.
And Alloy DB is the same idea, but for Google Cloud. And then Microsoft Azure has its own. So,
what are you, changing topics, IBM's making a play in the data stack, no pun intended, to really be the integration engine.
Correct.
They're playing Switzerland.
Yes.
And not trying to take Databricks head on.
Correct.
I mean, they've got database, so in that sense, they're competing against Oracle and Snowflake, but they're really trying to go after that white space across the stack from the harmonization layer, the governance layer, up to the point where they can support intelligent data apps. What do you make of that play? How do you think about that market? I think of it sometimes as a modern day integration like a Tibco or a Boomi, but maybe that's not the right way to think of it. What do you think about that?
So one of the problems IBM has had historically is that there are too many products, way too many products. Like during iPaaS days, they bought a company called Cast Iron, they had FileNet, they had WebSphere, Web Methods, and
it's mind-boggling set of companies.
So this is the first time in the last couple of years I've seen there's a much more focus on telling a more cohesive story. So although there are a lot of new products, so I think with watsonx.data, watsonx.governance, watsonx.ai, they've got the three pillars. They've got data, AI, and governance. watsonx Orchestrate is the layer they're putting on top to orchestrate different pieces and help business users develop AI pieces. So I think IBM is now doing a much better job in unifying the story. even though it's still a lot of pieces.
Can they build a moat around that story? I mean, maybe moat is an outdated concept, but I don't think it is. I think it's still, if you can maintain a competitive advantage and be open, then you're going to, and you can dominate that business, you're going to attract customers, you're going to get good margin, but do you think that's a big enough business? I mean, the TAM is probably pretty big, and the competition seems to be in pockets, and there seems to be nobody's trying to swallow the whole thing in the middle, not the compute necessarily in the storage, even though IBM has compute and storage. Let those do whatever they do and stand on their own. But that whole sort of new middleware piece, what do you think about that? Is that a big enough market for them to
see, I don't look at it as middleware, because to me middleware reminds me of just an integration, iPaaS layer and web method.
But what do you call it? I mean, it's
an integrated stack. And I think this is where we are going to see some massive changes happening. I'll give you some examples of what I have observed in literally the last few days. So today we are talking about IBM buying DataStax. It's not a new story, but relatively new. Today I also found out ServiceNow, so as part of your crew is at ServiceNow, right?
Yeah.
So they announced they're buying a data catalog company, data.world.
Oh, really?
Yes. So
well, that's an interesting move for them. Smart.
Yes,
smart move. I like that move. That's good for them.
Yesterday, there was a rumor, public rumor, that DataStax may buy a serverless Postgres company called Neon.
Wait, who? DataStax?
Databricks.
Databricks.
Yes. So Databricks may buy Neon. It was public.
A serverless company.
Serverless Postgres, which will put them into operational.
Which is, of course, they announced their sort of serverless play, I think a year ago, right?
Correct.
Which was kind of a game changer.
So serverless on the analytical side, this would be serverless on the operational side. You know what Snowflake has been trying to do with Unistore and...
What happened to Unistore?
It's called hybrid tables. Is
it alive?
I don't know. We'll find out. We'll be at Snowflake's summit in
sounds like you have some
3
information
weeks.
that you can't disclose.
So yes. So we'll find out. So okay. So last week, Datadog, they bought a data observability company called Metaplane from here, Boston. So it came out of MIT. So my point is that what you're seeing now is that there is a massive and a rapid consolidation that's already kicked off, and I think is going to gather steam. And companies like ServiceNow, Palantir, Salesforce, they are all going to offer the same services that Databricks, Snowflake, hyperscalers, IBM, Cloudera, Oracle. They'll all be lake houses.
Yeah.
So to your question, like how do you defend the moat? I don't know, because this story is being written and everybody wants to now offer an integrated stack. So those days of modern data stack where we had best of breed specialized software has rapidly come to a screeching halt. Customers are like, well, if I'm a ServiceNow customer and I get a data catalog, why would I go with a standalone data catalog?
Right. So, and it's interesting because what we've talked about is the point of control moving from the database to the governance catalog, but the governance catalog is opening up, and it's wild, wild west. Open table formats bring complexity in terms of governance, and then the values floating up the stack. So when you think about the companies like Databricks and Snowflake, they're now competing with, in a way, with the ServiceNows and the Salesforces, and you look at Salesforce with its data cloud and its federated data strategy, and it's like, we asked Benioff, and he resonated with him, could you be another hyperscaler, a software-only hyperscaler? We'd love that, right? Come on into our data cloud. We'll harmonize the data. We'll control those agents for you. It'll be, we have the best agent platform. So it's a whole new competitive dynamic for those companies.
And add to that NVIDIA, because you know NVIDIA has already moved up.
Yeah, right.
If they buy a database
company, right?
Actually, NVIDIA, OpenAI is another one. OpenAI did buy Rocket Software, but they weren't into. But I won't be surprised.
And so how does IBM fit into all that?
So I think, again, we started a conversation with mainframe. To find a moat, you have to find something that nobody else is doing. or even can do. And nobody can do mainframe, nobody can do what Red Hat OpenShift does.
Yeah.
So, with like HashiCorp, with Turbonomics, Apptio, and Instana, and all of those things, I think IBM is in a very, very unique position that none of these other players we talked about can match.
Let me push on that, because one of the things, you just said something, and the previous IBM guests were talking about it as well, Red Hat as a strategic advantage, but Red Hat's open. Anybody can work with Red Hat, right? And so, is that moat defensible, and why is it? Is it because they can integrate and do things like Linux One that are totally differentiable?
Yes.
And
Instruct Lab,
so they can do things that are unique to IBM with integration.
Correct.
So it's open, anybody can work with Red Hat, but at the same time, when you own the stack, you can do some optimizations that nobody else can do, or at least not do as well.
Yep, that is true. I think that's IBM's moat.
What do you think about what Zhamak is doing with Next Data?
So, I love Zhamak.
First of all, how do you think about it? I know you're basically, that's a but. But so, how do you describe what she's doing? Because it's somewhat complicated.
It is complicated. So her take is that data products are here to stay. I'm going to deliver them in containers. That's the Next Data OS, data mesh OS, or whatever she's calling it. So I think there's a problem. We made a leap of faith that data products are here. And I don't think data products are here. Although I've spent better part of my last few years talking about data products, I don't think businesses are clamoring to buy data product. They're clamoring to solve their business problem, whatever label you may put on it. So I think Zhamak has gone to the next level of the deployment story of containerizing and deploying data products, but the first half is not really established. And I think that's going to be a big challenge.
So it's a necessary condition for her. Okay, final thoughts on what you learned this week, and what's next for Sanjeev Mohan?
I'm going, next, Microsoft Build in 2 weeks, the week after next.
Yep.
So I'm very excited to go there because we haven't talked about data fabric, but whatever, again, data fabric is a label. But if you look at AWS SageMaker Lakehouse, BigQuery, and a bunch of other things, they're all kind of data fabrics. So I'm very interested in understanding how these different offerings stack up against each other. On surface, they look very similar, but when you start peeling the onion, you start finding out that there are actually some pretty critical differences in how they're approaching.
Data fabric. I'm more excited about Purview than I am data fabric.
So Purview is part of the data fabric story. Although it's sold as a separate product, but it is integrated into this.
Cool. Sanjeev, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time. We'll see you around the block.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you for watching. This wraps up the SiliconANGLE and theCUBE's coverage of IBM Think 2025. Again, thecube.net, all the on-demand videos, siliconangle.com for all the news, thecuberesearch.com for all the deep dive research. Check out thecubeai.com. Have some fun with it, ask it questions, and see what you get. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is Dave Vellante, and we'll see you next time.